Brock Lawley, aka the Atheist Antidote, is a poet and singer-songwriter and something of a rising star in the ranks of YouTube Christian apologists. Or perhaps it's a bit generous to actually describe him as an apologist. He's more a rhetorician. But being a poet and a songwriter, he does have something of a way with words. It's just a pity that he doesn't also have a way with logic and intellectual conscience. But watching the antics of the various YouTube Christian evangelists, the question tends to arise for you, just how low can Christianity go? And just as I was pondering that very question, along came Brock and answered it for me. Let's take a peek at one of his recent videos, and from that we'll get an idea of just how low Christianity, or some Christians, can indeed go.
Dinesh D'Souza, one of my favorite minds in dealing with you atheists. He said that there was something very interesting to be observed in the aftermath of national disasters. Take 9/11, for example, or the Virginia Tech shooting, or Katrina, etc. If you take a real honest look at all these tragedies, these natural disasters, these mournings of the soul of a nation, there's always a puzzle piece missing. And that puzzle piece is atheists and atheism. It's always strangely missing. It's just MIA.
The only thing missing in action here, Brock, is moral and intellectual decency. The apparent implication of what D'Souza said makes him little more than a moral and intellectual degenerate. And your agreement with him makes you, well, you do the math. Now, it's possible I'm misinterpreting those statements, but it seems to me that what you're suggesting is along the lines of there were no atheists in the ranks of the police that died on 9/11, no atheists in the ranks of the firefighters that died on 9/11. No atheists in the ranks of the rescue workers, engineers and sundry municipal workers who risked their lives and their health on that day and in the days following. That there were no atheists in the ranks of the social workers, counsellors, psychologists and psychiatrists who assisted people both professionally and personally in the days, weeks, months and even years following that event, and indeed the other calamities that you mentioned. When you express a sentiment like, where were the atheists when these sorts of events unfold, it's a sentiment that most atheists would justifiably want to metaphorically, if not literally, shove down your throat until you choke on it. I honestly don't know how you could be this stupid. And if this sort of rhetoric doesn't arise out of stupidity, then it must arise out of a kind of darkness of character that is quite disturbing. Indeed, these sort of sentiments make you not a person of low character, but a person of no character.
Tell you what isn't missing, though. Every time there's a public gathering, every time there's a public mourning, every time this country searches for its soul, we turn to God.
Yes, that's right. Whenever things get bad, you turn to your comforting fairy tales for solace, much like a child might. You truly are children of God. It's amazing that you express these views with so much pride, and yet, to me, what it indicates is that you actually lack the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual maturity to be able to cope with reality. When things get bad, you run to cry in the arms of Daddy. This is essentially what you do. And while you're off finding comfort and solace in those arms with your siblings, atheists are quietly doing what has to be done.
People across the spectrum, from right to left, they talk about God, they talk about God's healing, they talk about God's mercy.
You'll have to explain to this ignorant heathen where God's mercy was exactly as the Twin Towers fell, or as Katrina loomed over the hapless population of New Orleans. I know God works in mysterious ways, but perhaps you could explain that to us. And the simple fact is, God-botherers feel the need, for psychological reasons that I don't really have time to elucidate here, to declare their God-bothering to other God-botherers at every possible opportunity. It says nothing about the truth value of any such beliefs that people herd together and wallow in their superstitions. The Germans of the 1930s liked to get together and crap on about the greatness of the Aryan nation and how evil Jews were. That they got together and did that, expressing their herdliness, said nothing about the truth value of their behaviour and their beliefs. The simple fact is that atheists don't wear their atheism on their sleeves, in the same way that you wear your Christianity on yours. Atheists do not identify with their atheism in the same way that Christians such as you identify with their Christianity. Atheism is only a part of who and what an atheist is. Atheists identify with their humanity, with their minds, and their reason. They don't have any need to declare their atheism at every opportunity like you feel the need to declare your God-bothering.
Even the obvious secularists, even our leaders who we know share no real, genuine faith, they even drench their speech in religious overtone, symbolism, deeper religious meaning. Strangely enough, not too many people want to hear about the dark void of nothingness in their soul.
That would be because most people are drenched in superstition and delusion, and that's all they know. No wonder that's what they want to hear. And of course your social leaders talk in terms of religious symbolism. What do you expect? The vast majority of the population of your faith-soaked nation are God-botherers of one kind or another. It only stands to reason that such people would engage in that kind of rhetoric.
When their comrade has fallen, or the skyscrapers are literally falling from the sky. The atheist might get some miles out of prattling on about that in the halls of academia. But in the brass tacks of living, where the rubber meets the road and people's lives are affected...
Good grief, I feel like I've died and gone to cliché hell.
Nobody cares about your godlessness. It offers them nothing.
No, but the humanity, intelligence, and reason that led to that atheism offers a great deal.
Atheist writer Richard Dawkins, you know, the same guy who has you all questioning your sexuality, the one you all have a little man crush on, you hear his name and your temperature rises. You don't know how to explain it. Something's different.
Thank you for proving the theory that you are little more than a pretentious, smug prat.
Dick Dawkins, he argued that you and I were just molecules, assembled into functioning units over a millennia of natural selection. According to the findings of modern science, the universe has all the properties of a system utterly devoid of meaning.
I'm sorry, was there an argument in there that I missed? No, I don't think there was. The simple fact is, nature is devoid of meaning other than in the sense of the meaning that emerges from our own consciousness, because that is the source and origin of the very concept of meaning.
And I like this quote. As for soul, well, that's just an illusion.
You know, Brock, I don't know about where you live, but in this universe, glib sarcasm is not a substitute for an argument. It's not even a substitute for a point of any kind. That you believe the soul is other than an illusion means absolutely nothing.
So with that being said, it's a surprise to no one when Dawkins and Hitchens and Harris and all the YouTube greats, their phone doesn't really ring off the hook when the nation's in mourning, when it needs direction, when it needs purpose. The reason is because nobody really wants a big bag of void darkness.
That's right, they want a big bag of superstition and fairy tales and comforting lies. That you think that this is somehow virtuous just shows that you are a person of no substance whatsoever. Yours is an argument that being immature, weak, and pathetic is a virtue.
I have seen evil in my day with my own two eyes.
You've not only seen evil, you in fact knowingly and willingly participated in evil.
It has literally taken the breath from my lungs, and I must admit to you, I've wondered where God was in the midst of all this tragedy. But something I've learned is, as difficult as that is for me, it is more difficult for the atheist to deal with evil.
Right, so you took a poll of atheists and asked them how much difficulty they have in dealing with the problem of evil, right? Yeah. You know, atheists don't have any problem whatsoever with dealing with the existence of evil, because atheists don't have any problem whatsoever in dealing with reality. Atheists are able to accept that human nature is such that it is capable of almost anything, the greatest goods and the greatest evils. Atheists don't need to look outside of human nature to find the answers and explanations to the existence of such things. The only reason that you do is precisely because you cannot, in fact, cope with reality.
In a purely materialist world like the one the atheist peddles to you day after day here on YouTube, immaterial things like good and evil, souls, they simply don't exist.
Jesus, Brock, you owe me a new imbecile meter, because you just caused the one I had to explode. I don't know how you can speak such utter gibberish and do it with a straight face. What do you mean good and evil are immaterial? What the hell does that mean? Good and evil are ethical judgments of specific events, actions, or states of affairs. There is no incongruity between a materialistic view and the existence of good and evil. You're just speaking gibberish.
For science worshippers like many of you and Dawkins himself, things like mass shootings, genocide, torture, killing, raping, these things are just molecules acting upon molecules. How do you account for such a world?
Well, actually, molecules acting upon molecules works pretty well for me, But you know, Brock, perhaps one day you'll grow up enough to understand that science is not the only way in which non-believers gain an understanding of the world. It's not the only means by which such people engage that world. You can take that to the bank.